but there's just a few things that I really wanted to talk about tonight. And if you guys, since you're the only ones here, if there is something in particular that you want to hear my opinion about, because it is just us, I'm going to be happy to tell you the answer. And the answer will be authentic and it will be real. And it will also be an answer if I don't know the answer, I'll tell you that. But I'll tell you what's been on my mind. It's a lot happening. It was a busy weekend, and the truth be told, I was actually out of town all week, and I just got back yesterday, and it was unexpected. I wasn't supposed to get back until Monday, but I ended up having to come back yesterday. So I am a little bit disjointed. But let me tell you what's on my mind. I have been thinking and thinking and thinking about this election and what we can control and what we can't control. And I'm sure that you guys, like me, because you're here, you listened to the speech one way or the other about the president and elections. And I really decided that it was a lot of stuff to hear and take in, but I wasn't going to let that determine how we move forward in thinking about the election that's coming up for the House and for the Senate. And I just sort of had some ideas about how we might approach it. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the Women's Summit. And there are people working in the background at Network Nova who are passionate about this year's summit. And let me tell you what I am thinking about it. When I look at what is happening in the country and in our communities, um, is something that I have never experienced in my lifetime. And I'm sure that you guys have never experienced it either in your lifetime. What it feels like and what frustrates me sometimes is it appears that we are doing the same actions that we've always done. And you all know how that goes. You get the same results. But the results that we need this time are different results. We need to do the same. I never ask anyone to throw out tactics that we know have worked, but we're in a different kind of environment and we're dealing with different kinds of things. So we probably need some tactics that are different. Maybe there are things that we tried before that didn't work, but maybe they'll work now based on the environment and based on how people are thinking. Maybe it's something that we've done before, but we've never done it well, but it's an opportunity to do it well. And so when you think about canvassing or postcard writing or text banking or, um, whatever the thing is that you do, the question is, do we have an opportunity to do those things different? So, for example, we know that during the 24 campaign, there was tons of canvassing done. And my question is only how effective was it? Maybe it was really effective, but maybe when you look at the number of doors knocked versus the people you actually talked to, maybe it wasn't as quite as effective as we thought it was. So is there a different way to do canvassing? And I know that there is a lot of energy around this deep canvassing. And maybe that's true, but maybe if it's deep canvassing and you're hitting particular groups of people, maybe do we have the right messengers? Do we have people coming in town who really don't know the community, who don't know the people, who aren't trusted messengers? And so maybe there's a different way to think about that. I don't know. Maybe when it comes to text messaging, maybe there are programs that allow trusted messengers in the community to be able to deliver text messages, videos to people that you know, your own public square, whoever those people are that you are talking to personally. And the reason that I think about that one in particular is when the Supreme Court made the decision to allow campaigns to take in as much money as they could, as people will give to them, I worried about whether or not we would have enough money as a Democratic Party. So if we don't have the money, do we have the power? And what kind of power do we have if every single individual takes on the job as a newscaster, as an information person, as a trusted messenger, and we talk to everyone who's in our public square? Would that surpass the media dollars that they might use? So I'm just asking all of us to sort of think about ways to do things differently. We are, Janice and Karen, who's here with me, we are just as smart as everybody else. And so why shouldn't our ideas matter? Why shouldn't the experience that you have matter? Why shouldn't you be sharing your ideas about the kinds of things that you know about that matter? Because the people who are here in the midst of all of these things are the real folks who have the information. And the pundits are always talking about focus groups and what they heard, but you're the focus group. You're the one who knows. You're the one who's in the trenches. You're the one who's listening to the news and how it impacts and affects you. Typically, a lot of the folks in focus groups aren't the ones who really soak up all the news to really think about how it's absorbed and how it needs to be put out, what kinds of things you need to build confidence. Like, for example, if you did, in fact, watch the president, like, what would you want to have happen next? Would you want to see all the previous presidents come out and say, listen, the last election was free and it was fair, and there is nothing wrong with our elections. They are handled by our states and they are elections that you should have confidence in. What if Obama and Bush and Clinton came out and said that, and Biden? What if all of them came together as Democrats and Republicans to say, our elections are good. They are fair, they are free, and there has been no shenanigans in our elections. To me, that is different. That is understanding the moment and saying, okay, this is a different time. Things that are happening are things that we have not seen, not heard before, norms that are being broken. So it's time for us to break some norms in a way that give our people confidence. That would make me feel pretty good. So that's what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about, how do we do that? How do we ourselves figure that out? And that's where the Women's Summit comes in. And so I am also hoping, Karen and Janice, that this message gets picked up and folks will understand that our Women's Summit this year is doing exactly what I'm talking about. It is taking all of the activists and women and men and young people who come to our summit and challenge them to think differently. So let me tell you how I came up with this idea about these master classes for the summit. I was thinking, when you go to a summit or to a conference, there's always these workshops, and you have to pick and choose the workshops. So you go to this one and you miss this, or you go to that one and you miss this. But what if you decided that there were workshops that were so important that no one needed to miss them, that everyone needed to be involved in those workshops so that they would all walk out with the same message, laser focused on what the assignment is? What would happen if we did that? So we did. We decided that we would have master classes, and they would be taught by people that we had confidence in, people who had experience, people who understood, so that when we were done with those master classes, all of us would be laser focused on the assignment. And so we have three of those master classes, and they are pretty amazing. And so let me tell you about them and what they are. The three master classes that we have designed is for transformation. When you walk out of those classes, you shouldn't be the person who walked in. You should walk out feeling like you have been transformed in terms of how you're thinking about the challenges that are ahead. The first one is turning crisis into power. And the way that I think about that is this: never let a crisis go to waste. And we are in crisis mode, it feels like, every single day. But there are enough of us to understand how to take those crises and come out as leaders, how to come up with different ideas, how to think about things differently, how to do it differently. I'll give you an example. I'm sure that you guys who are old enough remember Tylenol, and someone laced it with a cyanide or something. And people were just like, what on earth are we going to do? They pulled them all off the shelves. They it was a slump for them, but then they came up with the packaging that we all use today, that we see everywhere. So innovation was created through crisis. If you like pizza, Domino's pizza used to be just terrible. But what did they do? They listened to their customers and they came up with a new recipe. And Domino's is delicious. It's the only pizza that I order right now. And there are many other of those examples. I think Netflix is one of those examples where their company was in crisis. If you think about it, sometimes I feel like our party is in crisis. And how do you take that crisis, or any crisis that we deal with every single day in terms of the work that we do, and turn it into opportunity? That's what we want people to understand, and that's how we wanna deal with the last few months of this election, is each one of us coming out as those kinds of leaders. The next one is the art of momentum, which is kind of special too. I think about, sometimes you wonder if the little things you do matter, but sometimes they turn into really big things. I mean, I think about the butterfly effect, right? And you do one thing and it turns into something massive. And I think the best example of that is Rosa Parks. And it turned into something massive. Someone one day deciding that they're not going to get out of their seat turns into the Montgomery boycott. And what did that do? It was a significant change for the civil rights movement. So we're having our movement right now. And what are those things? What can we do, whether big or small, that can actually be a driving force? It might not be one thing and it may not be the biggest thing, but it can still have an impact in our communities and for our people and for the folks that we care about. And we've got some ideas about that. And the last one is the power of the unexpected. And think about that for a minute. Sometimes you're just in your day and you're wondering, what is it that you can do? The best example that I have for that is Senator Charlene Oliver, who during Tennessee, when they were having all of the hearings on taking away the voting rights of the many Black people in Tennessee, all of the confusion going on, all of the speeches that were had, most people remember her standing on the table unfurling that blanket that said "No Jim Crow 2.0." That is a moment of something unexpected, and we remember that. And we remember that despite all of those things happening, that there was this woman standing there in that moment to say, "This is not okay." And it is the power of our voice, whether it be through a blanket, whether it be through what you put on your lawn, a yard sign, whether it be a sign you're holding, whether it be a t-shirt, whether it be your voice, whether it be a text message. We all have the power to speak out. And sometimes when people think that you shouldn't, you're the voice that makes a difference. But that masterclass will also give us the ability to think differently about the unexpected. And because it's unexpected, it doesn't mean that it's not planned, but it means that you are being thoughtful about what you can do in a moment that will make a difference. And so those three masterclasses, I think, will be transformational for us, turning crisis into power, the art of momentum, and the power of the unexpected. Those will be the master classes that will be offered, and they will be taught by Robert Hubble, Michelle Hornish, and Rachel Bidikofer. So if you want to be transformed in terms of how you are thinking about these last months and what you can do and how you can take your power and go back into your community and make a difference, these master classes will be for you. So I am hoping that if you're not already signed up for the Women's Summit, that you will go to www.networknova.org and sign up. But you guys are regulars, so you know all about that. I am so glad that you guys popped in tonight. Um, I am so grateful. I am so sorry about all of my technical difficulties tonight, but you know what? I didn't give up. I decided that I was going to come in here anyway, even if it was just me, and share a message of what I've been thinking about and how I'm thinking about this election, because it's really all I think about. But you guys should know this. I am planning my family reunion is coming up this weekend, and I'm really excited about it. We are the host family of my family reunion, and we have been um, planning and looking at our family history, and it's all been really exciting. And what's even more exciting as I sort of dig into our history, I think I told you all last week I have an aunt who got married in 1901 in Edwards, North Carolina. I've been looking at what it was like to live in Edwards, North Carolina in 1901, and I got to tell you, it was really, really hard, but she made it. She has lots of kids, and we're here because of it. But anyway, so I'll tell you guys all about my family reunion when I come back next week. Janice, thank you so much. It is always good for you guys to be here. Thanks for joining me, and have a wonderful week. And don't let the blues get you down. There is always good work that we can do. You guys, see ya, and thank you. One thing I heard this weekend was the moniker Social Democrats and how we'll handle it. So I'm not gonna go, I'm gonna answer it for you. So on the 23rd, I'm gonna sit down with Alpha Woolen, and we're gonna talk about, democratic socialists or social democrats or however they wanna call themselves. And I think I don't think it's all that complicated. I think at the end of the day, we keep on talking about having this big tent of which we welcome everyone in. And whatever party or however you describe yourself as a progressive, as a conservative, as a blue Democrat, as whatever it is, we're all there. We're all in there. And when I hear the socialist Democrats talk, I hear the same things. Affordable healthcare. They want universal healthcare. They want all of the things that we talk about every single day. So what is different about that? And I think in terms of whether or not, you believe in capitalism, that is why you have a huge Democratic Party, and that is why you have votes that you have to get in the House. And so I think they'll bring good information to the table. They'll debate it. And then whatever legislation that we, the people, decide on based on who we send there, they should go there and fight for that. And whatever pieces of legislation happen, it will be because of the consensus of the Democratic Party. Just because you have 5 socialists or a blue dog or a progressive, no one answer is gonna be the answer. So I think that people should stop being terrified about the word socialist, because I think if they looked it up, they would find that it's not this big scary thing. And I think the president himself has been calling them communists because at the end of the day, he knows that some of the things that they're talking about are the things that Democrats talk about every single day. And so I wouldn't let them push you with that. Make them tell you what a socialist is. This is one of those times when I talk about how you talk back to people. If someone says to you, "Oh, you're a democratic socialist," well, ask them, "Well, what do you think a democratic socialist is? Tell me what you think that is." And tell me what you think about the roads that we drive on. Tell me what you think about Social Security that we all pay into. Tell me what you think about how we think about certain regulations. Tell me what you think about all of the things that we put money in, pay our taxes to use together. What is that? And I think that at the end of the day, they're not going to be able to tell you that they don't understand that these different forms of government, there are many forms of them that make up our government. So I think it will only be difficult if we make it difficult, and I do think that some Democrats have made it more difficult and complicated than it needed to be, because they send them to Congress to work together to come up with the best policies for the people. And if they all just stuck with that, I think we'd be in much better shape. But we're gonna have a big conversation about it on Thursday. Does that help a little bit? Janice, did that help? Anyway, we'll talk some more about it on the 23rd, but I would say this is an opportunity again. Push them on what a democratic socialist is. Ask them what they think it is. And at the end of the day, as I said before, this is why they come together in the House to make good policies, to get good legislation out there. It requires the votes to do it. It should be all ideas. And I think at the end of the day, there'll be some pretty good ideas out there. That's why you want a big party, and that's why you want good ideas. And that's why you want to do what the people have asked us to do. And healthcare is one of those big things, which, by the way, people forget that in the 90s, Hillary Clinton was talking about universal healthcare. And so now, as we continue to talk about it, we're having all these labels, and at the end of the day, it should just be to get the people's work done. So again, thank you guys. And if that's it, I'm gonna let you all go and have a wonderful rest of your Sunday. Bye.